Hello and welcome to my lecture on news leads. I want to begin this lecture, or this little talk, basically just talking a little bit about leads and why they're important. Leads to begin with are sometimes spelled L-E-D-E-S, and sometimes they're spelled L-E-A-D-S. It's kind of just depends upon the person. I was originally, sort of the people who taught me like to do it L-E-D-E-S. The book does it L-E-A-D-S. And so that's sort of nothing more than just, I don't think there's really anything more to it than that. So that's just something to be, to keep in mind. Now, basically the idea of a lead is that it's going to be the first sentence or the first paragraph of a news story that sort of grabs your reader. Now, there are going to be some exceptions. We're going to talk about the basic news lead first. When you get into some of the, I guess, non-basic or alternative news leads, I guess, those types of leads oftentimes will maybe be multiple paragraphs, because sometimes you'll do an analogy or you'll tell a story. But for the basic news lead, it's usually one paragraph. And usually it's going to grab the attention, give the key information right off the bat. But the whole point of this isn't just to give all the information. It's to tell you what's new and to tell you why the person should read it. This is your final chance to sell it. The reality is that the person who writes the headline is the copy editor, or the editor of the paper, or the magazine, or the newspaper. Usually the writer, reporter does not do the headlines, with some exceptions. I think that may be slowly changing in the online world, but to a certain degree, I mean, those have always been written by other people, because, usually those people have a fresh take upon it. They know how they're going to play it, even if it's on a website or other things, and so that's who does the headline. So this is your chance to grab the readers and also to get the editors to realize this is an important story. And the basic thing is, and one thing to keep in mind, is that research shows that, like, if you pick up a newspaper and you start reading it, you're going page by page through the newspaper, what they found that, say, for example, on the first page, the people might read most of the stories, but what they'll also find is that, in a newspaper, there's usually maybe 100, maybe 70, 80, 100 stories in a full paper, wire stories and other things. But what they'll find is that as you go through and you see there's 100 stories on the paper, that oftentimes people will begin reading it. If they get the information they want, or they don't think the story is going to be that interesting, they'll quit reading. And so there's a dual purpose. The lead is both a chance to catch people and go, oh, I want to read this, but it's also a chance to give out key information, what's new. And so it's sort of a dual purpose. You don't want to just tease people, because people will get annoyed by that. You want to give them information and tell them why it's worth reading. And so there's different types of leads, but the basic news lead is where you give out basic information, like so-and-so was arrested. Okay? This is the crux of what's going on. Somebody was arrested. Now, the key is somebody being arrested perhaps isn't that distinguishing from another. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, if you pick up like the State Journal Register and you turn to the local section, on the inside page there's usually a bunch of briefs, a bunch of shorts about different things happening. And a lot of them all start off with, a man was injured in a car wreck, a person was injured. And after a while, all those begin to run together, and they're not all that distinguishable. So what you also look for is you look for something that's going to distinguish this, whether it be the name, the condition of the arrest, why they were arrested, etc. If you had somebody who was arrested for breaking and entering, you might, if it's not that interesting, you have to question whether or not it's worth being in the paper, other than just it is news. But you might also ask the question of, what made this breaking and entering interesting? What did they take? Sometimes you'll find ones that are interesting, and you want to bring that to the front. You bring up the unusual facts, like somebody broke into houses, he took off with a flat screen TV, such and such, and you list a few things, and a 6-pack of beer. That might be the thing. Well, as an example, my parents have they moved to the country a few years ago, and their shed was broken into. Their tool shed was broken into, and the guy took off with a bunch of tools, mainly power tools like electric, like battery operated, like drills and stuff. And ends up, part of the reason is that the batteries are now being used, the lithium in them and other things is used to make methamphetamines, and so that's probably why he took them. But the other thing that was really interesting is that the guy took, my dad had a few different things of gasoline for, diesel for his mower, and probably he probably had gasoline for his other things, and maybe a oil gas mixture for his weed eaters and other tools. And so what was interesting was the person actually took all those things of fuel and poured them into his truck apparently, and then, or into a larger container, and then ended up throwing back in the empty tanks, the empty containers. And so that's actually kind of interesting. Like, when you write that lead, you'd probably want to say something like, and the guy had actually done a series of them. Police are seeking a burglar in a series of rural shed break-ins in which thousands of dollars worth of tools were taken, and as well as making sure to top off his fuel, or to empty out the fuel from gasoline cans before leaving, or something like that. A wanted criminal, a series of burglaries over the weekend had a criminal emptying out gas tanks before he took off, or something like that. You read that and you're like, what? Like, that's kind of weird. It's odd. And so that's the key, is to grab people, to give them something unusual. You don't want to give all your information in the lead, but you do want to give what you see to be the most newsy. If it's the who, you want to give that. The mayor was arrested. If it's the what, maybe the crime. I've been talking about the what. The when. Maybe it was the case these happened during the day, or in the case of the one I was just talking about with my parents, it was the fact they had 10 or 12 burglaries in a row. That might be when. Well, it was a series. It was a rash. Why? I don't know if the why matters there, but it might matter in other cases, like a man was stealing in order to feed his family, or a man broke into a cabin because the freak snowstorm left him stranded in the middle of nowhere. Then the why is very important. And so usually, if you want to focus on the who, what, when, where, and why, but you want to be on one thing in particular. You don't want to go into everything, but you want to go into a few in particular. You look for that which is unusual. You look for the who, what, when, where, and why, and you do those. Now, as far as other things to do with this, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Leads are oftentimes, they can be of varying lengths. There's a little chart in your book on page 190 in which it says the average length in words of a lead. And what you find is, for example, the Washington Post, it has 39, New York Times 33. Now, these are kind of more, these are newspapers that are typically read by people who are very specifically interested in politics, or New York Times is kind of seen as a bit of a, it is a newspaper in New York, but it's also seen as America's newspaper, is one that's read by people in journalism and business across the country. And so they maybe have longer leads because they have a different audience. But the Associated Press usually does 30, Scripps Howard 25. As you get into more general news writing, it gets shorter. And the reason is you want to give them short information, quickly, simply, straightforward. You want to be specific in them, but you don't want to be so specific that you clock it down. You don't want to give every last detail because it makes it fast. Your key is I usually kind of follow a policy of take a breath, read it. Set it down, look at it. Does it read quickly? Can you do it all in one breath? Do you have to stop at any point? If you have to stop, if you have to take another breath, you probably have too long a lead. The other thing is if you're going to trip over any of the words, if you're going, wait, what? How's that phrased? You want it to be the most straightforward, clear as possible. You would prefer active voice as far as sentence structure. You want it to be strong verbs, strong words, and you want it to be active. But the only exception would be is if for example, police arrest mayor. Police arrest mayor. That's active voice. The other way would be mayor arrested by police, or mayor was arrested. Those would be passive voice. in that case, it's probably okay because you want to move that person to the front of the sentence. You want to get the information out there quickly. The first few words, figuring every word, every sentence, everything slows it down. So you want to be straight. You really don't want any like clauses like in the beginning of time or at the start of the day. You don't want to start off with a prepositional phrase. You want to get right into the meat, be very specific, be very active, etc. Now, other things that are important, don't give opinions. It's oftentimes easy to get into wanting to give opinions in a lead where you're saying like, so-and-so stole stuff because he's a bad person, or, the mayor decided, he was going to, well, you don't know what the mayor was thinking. So try to keep it as factual as possible. If there is an opinion and the opinion is important, then give attribution, say who said it. Bill Smith said the mayor is looking for a fight, or something like that. Make sure to emphasize the magnitude of the story. If it's a big story, make sure to give what's big about it. The key here is don't, you're trying to give people a reason to read the story. And so don't take something that's a big story and not play it up early on. If it's something that's groundbreaking, say it. Make sure people know. I remember one time I had a story about a group of World War II veterans that were getting together, and they always got together every year. A group that went on I believe on D-Day and probably Omaha Beach. I'm not 100% sure now, but it was going to be their last time because they were all getting older. And I wrote it, and I remember later thinking, I wrote that lead, but I didn't really play up. Like the big deal was these guys are all getting too old to get together every year. They've decided that this is going to be their last time that they're going to get together because they know they'll be too old and they can't get there and people can't get there. And so instead of trying to make people feel guilty and everything, they were going to have one final get-together. And that's something that really should be played up because that is important. Now, I think in that case, I don't remember how well I played it up. I think I kind of played it, but I didn't play it as strongly as I went. The thing is you want to emphasize it. If it's a big thing, if there's an important factor, play it up. The only other thing is that I would suggest here before I give you some things to avoid and some other comments on leads as I finish up this first video. Keep it simple, but the other thing is make it local. If you get a group of people who've been given an award, don't tell everybody, just tell the local person. Say, local boy receives award. Local boy Billy Bob receives award. Don't sit there and say, Billy Bob was among 17 people who received awards. We don't care about that. We only care that somebody local did it. If the state's giving $5 million or $50 million to fire departments, I don't care. What I care about is the Springfield Fire Department getting money? If they're giving money to community colleges, I don't care, how much Chicago's getting. I care what Lincoln Land is getting. And so you want to make sure to say, Lincoln Land Community College received $6 million on Tuesday in a state grant as part of $50 million in grants that were announced by, Governor Bruce Rauner. Okay, something like that. That puts out there the local angle. So things to remember, make it local, find the unusual, maintain objectivity, always upplay it, keep it, give specifics, but don't make it too long, be concise, make it flow, make it fast, use strong, active verbs.